Are you awake, or do you just think you are? Because there is a brutal difference between opening your eyes and truly seeing. And let me tell you something that is going to make you uncomfortable. You've been walking asleep for years, believing that the voice in your head is you, that the body you carry is all that exists. But it isn't. You're not even close to what you really are. You live trapped in the most superficial layer of your existence, moving like an automaton, repeating patterns, believing you're free when in reality you're chained to an identity you didn't even choose. Do you know what the worst part is? You feel comfortable there. You like the prison because it's familiar, because leaving it means facing something that terrifies you. The possibility that everything you believe about yourself is a lie. Here's the truth no one wants to hear. You are not your body, nor are you that mind that never shuts up, the one that tells you who you are, what you should do, what you should fear. You are much more than that, but you don't know it because you've never looked beyond. You were taught to identify with the densest, the most limited, with what breaks, gets sick, and rots. And from that identification, all your suffering is born. Every fear, every anxiety, every existential emptiness you feel is the result of believing that you are only this: flesh, bones, and mechanical thoughts. But let me tell you something. Your consciousness has no limits. The problem is that you've locked it in such a small cage that you no longer remember what it feels like to expand. Most people live and die without leaving the first layer of consciousness, or the one that only knows how to react, survive, repeat. It's the mechanical layer, the one that eats, works, sleeps, and starts over. There is no depth there, only automatism. But there are more layers, 7 to be exact, and each one brings you closer to what you really are. The problem is that getting there hurts, because it means letting go of everything you've been told you are. It means breaking the image, destroying certainties, facing the abyss. And most people aren't willing to do that. They prefer to stay on the surface, because depth is dizzying. But here's the paradox. That dizziness is the sign that you're touching something real. When you feel everything falling apart, when you no longer know who you are, that's when you begin to wake up. The first layer is pure reaction, basic instinct, primitive fear. Well, that's where most people live, working to survive, running toward death without questioning anything. There is no real consciousness there, only programming. You act the way you were taught, think the way you were told, feel what you were programmed to feel, and you think that's living. But it isn't. It's existing, which is not the same thing. The second layer is where you start to notice that there's something more, where creativity appears, the desire to transcend, but you're still trapped in the ego. You want to be someone, to stand out, to leave a mark. You're still playing the world's game, just with more style. But it's still a trap, because the ego is a prison disguised as a throne. The third layer is where things start to get interesting. There you feel connection, empathy, love that asks for nothing. But it can also be a trap if you stay there, because love without consciousness is naive. It gets dragged along. It loses itself in the other. The fourth layer is the breaking point. There you no longer identify with anything fixed. You begin to see that everything is movement, that identity is an illusion. But the ego fights back, resists, tries to convince you to return. And many do, because uncertainty weighs more than familiar chains. The fifth layer is where silence begins to speak, where words are no longer enough, where the mind stops being the center and intuition takes control. Here you no longer seek answers. You feel them. You don't need anything explained. because you know it from a place that requires no logic. The sixth layer is conscious emptiness, the place where you realize that everything you thought was solid is smoke, and that reality is malleable, that you are the dreamer and the dream at the same time. But here, there is still a you who observes. And the seventh layer is where even that you disappears. There is no separation, no observer and observed. There simply is. It's the place where time breaks, where past and future collapse, where you are everything and nothing at the same time. And beyond that, there is an eighth heaven, a place that cannot even be named because words destroy it. It is absolute emptiness, the nothingness that contains everything, the point where consciousness meets itself and recognizes that it was never separate. But here's the problem. You arrive in this world and you forget. You're born with that connection intact, but it's torn away from you second by second. You're taught that you are only a body, that pain is bad, and that fear is normal, that death is the end. You're trained to live on the surface and to punish any attempt to go deeper. And over time, you accept it. You give up. You convince yourself that this is the only possible reality. But it isn't. Mental rigidity is the root of all suffering. When you cling to a fixed identity, when you believe you are only this and nothing more, you condemn yourself to prison. Because life is change, it is movement, it is flow. And you are trying to freeze something that by nature cannot be stopped. The result is illness, anxiety, depression, that emptiness you can't fill with anything external because the problem isn't outside, it's in the way you relate to yourself. Illness is not bad luck or coincidence. It is the scream of a body that can no longer tolerate the rigidity of your mind. And when you refuse to let go, when you cling to beliefs, fears, patterns that no longer serve you, the body absorbs it. And if you don't listen, it screams louder. Cancer, autoimmune diseases, nervous breakdowns, all of that is the consequence of living against your own nature. Modern medicine treats symptoms, not causes, because the cause is uncomfortable. It implies responsibility. It means accepting that you created this, that your way of thinking, eating, breathing, living is slowly killing you. But no one wants to hear that. It's easier to blame chance, take a pill, and move on. But the pill doesn't heal, it only silences. And silence is not healing, it's postponement. Fear is the king of the first layer of consciousness. It's what keeps you there, trapped, repeating. Fear of dying, fear of failing, fear of being rejected, and fear of being alone. But that fear is a lie, because what you really fear is not death or failure. It's losing your identity. You fear no longer being who you think you are, because if you're not that, then what are you? And that question terrifies you so much that you prefer to stay in the cage. But here's the brutal truth. That cage isn't real. You built it yourself, brick by brick, with every limiting belief you accepted, with every fear you fed. And the key was always in your hand, but you never used it because you didn't know you could. Now you do. So what are you going to do about it? Reality is not what you were told. It's not something fixed, solid, immutable. Reality is a dream, and you are the dreamer. But you've spent so long believing you are the character inside the dream that you forgot you can change it. And every thought you have, every emotion you feel, every action you take is shaping that reality. But because you do it unconsciously, from programming, the dream turns into a nightmare. And then you blame the world, others, luck. But the world isn't the problem. Your lack of consciousness is. When you wake up, when you realize you are the creator, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because you change the way you perceive it. and in that perception lies all the power. Chakras are not an esoteric myth or a hippie tale. They are real energy centers that regulate your consciousness. Each one connects with a different layer of your being, and when they are blocked, you are blocked. The first chakra is survival, fear, grounding. If it's closed, you live in constant panic, without roots, without stability. And the second is creativity, pleasure, movement. If it's blocked, you're rigid, dull, without spark. The third is personal power, will, action. If it doesn't flow, you're a victim. You complain and do nothing. The fourth is love, connection, empathy. If it's closed, you're cold, disconnected, incapable of feeling. The fifth is expression, truth, communication. If it's blocked, you swallow your words and live in forced silence. The sixth is intuition, vision, perception beyond the physical. If it's not active, you live blind, guided only by limited logic. The seventh is connection with the absolute, with totality. If it's closed, you feel separate, alone, lost in the universe. Activating these centers is not about rituals or mindlessly repeating mantras. It's about living consciously, breathing deeply, moving with intention, eating clean, like letting go of control. Every time you get stuck in a pattern, you close a chakra. Every time you flow, you open it. It's that simple and that brutal. But most people live with all of them closed, moving like zombies, without energy, without real life. And they wonder why they feel empty. The answer is right there, but they don't want to see it, because seeing it means changing, and change hurts. Visualization is a powerful tool, but only if used consciously. It's not imagining pretty things and waiting for them to appear. That's cheap fantasy. Real visualization is creating an image so vivid, so felt, that your mind can't tell the difference between what's imagined and what's real. Because for the unconscious mind, there is no difference. If you feel something with enough intensity, your brain believes it already happened. And from that belief, you act differently. You don't wait for it to happen. You move as if it already has. And that's where the magic is. Not in visualization itself, but in the action born from it. But most people visualize from fear, from lack, from I don't have. And so visualization reinforces exactly that. Lack. If you visualize from need, you create more need. If you visualize from fullness, you create more fullness. It's a matter of frequency, of vibration, of how you feel while you imagine. Meditation is not sitting cross-legged repeating Om, waiting for instant enlightenment. That's spiritual theater, not awakening. Real meditation is the act of observing without judging, of being present without clinging, of letting go without escaping. It's the space between thoughts, and that silence that scares you because there is no identity there. When you truly meditate, the ego dissolves, and with it, everything you thought you knew. And that's terrifying. That's why most people meditate poorly. They use meditation as escape, as relaxation, as a way to feel better. But meditation isn't meant to make you feel better. It's meant to show you the truth. And the truth isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's brutal. It confronts you with everything you've avoided, everything you've repressed. But on the other side of that confrontation is freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom of needing nothing. And that is true freedom. The body is not a vehicle you use and discard. It is the temple where your consciousness lives. And if you fill it with garbage, your consciousness becomes cloudy. It's that simple. You can't aspire to expand your perception if your blood is poisoned with chemicals, processed sugar, dead food. Diet matters. A lot. Every bite you put in your mouth is building or destroying your clarity. The ancestors knew this. They ate from the earth, breathed clean air, chewed slowly. There was no rush, no anxiety. But now you eat in a hurry, without chewing, without feeling. And you wonder why you're tired, why everything hurts, why you can't concentrate. The answer is on your plate. If you eat life, you'll have life. If you eat processed death, you'll have slow death. There's no mystery there, only consequences. Flexibility is life, rigidity is death. And this applies to everything: body, mind, spirit. A rigid body breaks, a rigid mind cracks, a rigid spirit goes out. Life is movement, change, adaptation. If you refuse to flow, you stagnate, and stagnation is decay. Look at the elderly who move with grace, who remain flexible at 80. It's not luck, it's practice. They stretched, they moved, they didn't stay still. And look at those who are rigid at 50, hunched in pain, bitter. They stayed still, clung, refused to let go. The same happens with the mind. A flexible mind learns, adapts, changes its opinion when necessary. A rigid mind clings to its beliefs even when evidence says otherwise. And that mental rigidity is pure poison. It turns you into a fanatic, someone incapable of seeing beyond their own narrative. And that's where you die, even if you're still breathing. Consciousness is not linear. It's spiral. You don't move forward in a straight line. You rise and fall, you turn, you return to points you thought you had overcome. But every time you return, you do so from a different place, higher, deeper. You understand things you couldn't see before. And that is growth. It's not a straight path to enlightenment. It's a chaotic dance between light and shadow. And both are necessary. Without shadow, there is no depth. Without light, there is no direction. But most people want only light. They want to avoid darkness. And so they get stuck on the surface, in empty positive thinking, in denial of pain. But pain is a teacher. Shadow is a guide. If you avoid it, it chases you. If you face it, it frees you. The past is not behind you. It is inside you. Every trauma, every wound, every inherited pattern from your ancestors lives in your body, your mind, your energy. It's not something you left in time. It's something you carry now. And if you don't face it, you repeat it. Either generation after generation, the same fears, the same limitations, the same mistakes, until someone decides to break the cycle, and that someone can be you. But it means looking at what hurts, recognizing that not everything you are is yours, that much of what you think and feel was programmed before you were born. And from that awareness, you can choose. You can let go of what doesn't serve you, heal what's broken, become the breaking point of your lineage. Or you can keep repeating. The choice is yours. The future is not something waiting for you. It's something you create now. Every thought, every decision, every action is drawing the path. But because you live unconsciously, you don't realize you're choosing your own hell. You complain about the future you live without understanding that you built it with your past choices. And you will keep building the same thing if you don't change now. The future is not destiny. It's consequence. And the consequence of living asleep is staying trapped in the same nightmare. But if you wake up, if you consciously take control of what you think, feel, and do, the future changes. Not by magic, but by pure physics. Change the input, change the output. It's that simple, but no one wants to do the work. They prefer to wait for miracles, signs, divine interventions. But the miracle is you when you decide to move. Spirit and matter are not separate. They never were. That division is an invention of minds that need to control, classify, limit. But reality doesn't work that way. Spirit expresses itself in matter. Matter is spirit condensed. Two sides of the same coin, two expressions of the same energy. When you understand that, you stop fighting the body, you stop seeing the physical world as the enemy. The world isn't the problem, it's how you relate to it. If you see it as a prison, it will be. If you see it as a school, you'll learn. If you see it as a game, you'll play. Perception changes experience, and experience changes reality. Freedom is not doing whatever you want without consequences. That's chaos disguised as rebellion. Freedom is not needing to control anything or anyone, not even yourself. It's flowing without resistance, without attachment, without fear. It's dying to identity over and over again, and being reborn lighter each time. But most people confuse freedom with escapism, with avoiding responsibility, with running from pain. That isn't freedom. It's cowardice. True freedom is born from facing everything, looking it straight in the eye, but going through it without running. And on the other side, there isn't eternal happiness or heavenly peace. There is clarity. And with clarity, everything changes. There are no absolute truths to cling to, not even what you're hearing now. Everything is movement, everything is relative, everything depends on the level of consciousness from which you look. What is true today may not be tomorrow. What works for one may not serve another. And that's fine. The problem is when you cling to a truth as if it were the only one, as if you had the complete map. You don't. No one does. There are only fragments, pieces of clarity that appear and disappear. And the one who understands that, the one who accepts uncertainty as a companion, is the one who truly lives. Because life is not certainty. It's mystery. And mystery is not solved. It is experienced. So what do you do with all this? Do you stay where you are, comfortable in your familiar cage? Or do you take the leap, knowing there are no guarantees on the other side? Because no one is coming to save you. No one is going to wake you up if you don't decide to do it yourself. You can keep waiting for the perfect moment, the divine sign, the motivation that never comes. Or you can start now, with what you have, from where you are. You don't need more information. You don't need another course, another book, another technique. You need to move. You need to breathe deeply, let go of control, face what hurts. You need to stop living on autopilot and start choosing consciously. Because every second you spend asleep is a second that doesn't come back. And life doesn't wait for you to be ready. It keeps moving with or without you. Okay, so stop postponing. Stop making excuses. Stop waiting for permission. Wake up. Not tomorrow, not when the planets align. Now. Because now is all you have. And either you use it or you lose it. You decide.